We are live. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome to the Second Talk with Star Tracy. I'm Tracy Shannon, and I am here with my great friend, Samantha Elizabeth. And we are here to have the talk. And what we mean by the second talk is, in case you haven't watched me before, is the first talk most girls have, usually with their mom, but also a lot of schools do it, where when you're somewhere between 8 and 11, you find out what's going to happen or is happening with your body as those, hormones start whooping their way up. But, somewhere now they're telling us in your late 30s, it actually starts happening. And through your 40s, and I'm now 53, and I've officially menopaused because I don't have periods anymore. But that doesn't mean that my hormones aren't still doing things. The hormones start going down. But moms and often even doctors don't have a second talk. So we want to change that. I want to be the Are You There, God? It's me, Margaret, of the second talk. Now, you are younger than I, so I don't know what you got, but when I was a kid in the late 70s
Yeah.
and early 80s, you got that book. And when you got that book, you had a sleepover and you read the sections, and we all started saying, I must increase my bust. And we all wanted to know what a napkin was. Now, thank God we don't have to wear belts anymore. But the point is that we all gathered around and we thought about it and we talked about it
Mhm.
ad nauseum. But when it comes to menopause and perimenopause, especially, we don't.
Mm. Yep.
So I thank you, Samantha, for wading into waters that a lot find embarrassing and scary
Mhm.
and weird, or whatever the words are that keep us from when we are even, you know, having cocktails and feeling loose and wild. We still don't talk about it. So thank
No. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm so glad that you have this podcast for people to be able to talk about this because I think everybody's journey is a little different, as far as what they experience, but there's a lot of commonalities here. So, just to be transparent, I'm 42, I'm going to be 43 this year. I think I'm in perimenopause. And I heard the other day that if you think you're in perimenopause, then you are in perimenopause. And I'm like, no. Okay. So I'm going to talk a lot about my apprehension with menopause just because I've seen what other people have gone through with that. And it's like, man, men do not have to experience this. They don't have to go through all of this pain that we need to go through in order to be a woman, it's just one of those things that is just very
you. Yay
hard.
for being a woman.
Yay! So I'm going to be transparent about a little bit my journey, as far as like my hormones and my womanhood and what I've kind of experienced there. So when I was 13, I started my period, but I was a little late compared to my peers.
That's
And
what I got my too. So I
yeah,
understand.
yeah, I'm going to say that I was late because I was thin. And that's kind of like what the doctors look at is, they look at if you're just a little heavier or something, you're going to start your period a little sooner. And I was really thin. And so I really wanted my period. And I know that people would go around and say like, hey, does anybody need a tampon or a pad or something like that? And I'm kind of like, I wanted to raise my hand, but I never got my period, until I was 13. So I was kind of a little late bloomer, compared to my peers. And when I finally got my period, I was so excited. And I got it. It was in the morning, and my sister was doing a vaulting competition, which is gymnastics on top of horseback. And so I was at her competition and I was super excited because I went to the bathroom and I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? And I was like, oh my gosh, it's happening. And I got so excited. And as the day wore on, I realized that I got less and less excited because the cramps started setting in. And I was like, I didn't know what was wrong with me. I hadn't heard anybody talk about cramps, to this degree before. And because we were at this vaulting competition, gymnastics on top of horseback, there was horses. And so I went into one of the horse stalls and laid on the ground of the horse stall and
Baby.
writhing in pain. And I could not, if you ever ride in a horse stall, it's dirt and hay,
Oh,
basically.
yeah.
That's all it is. And so I'm there as my 13-year-old self, and people are coming into the horse stall going, "What's going on with you?" And they're trying to feed me, they're trying to water me, like, like treat me like a horse. I'm like sitting there writhing in pain.
Do
And
you want an apple?
I basically passed out. Like, that's what I did. I passed out from all of the
Oh,
pain.
bless your heart.
And my mom was like, "What is going on with you?" And she said, "Oh, I experience period pain too." And she hadn't been through menopause at this time. So she's like, "Oh, I experienced it too. You just take an ibuprofen," or they gave me Pamprin, Midol, that sort of thing. And those actually make me very sick. So I found out ibuprofen works for me to a degree. However, once the cramps really start and set in and everything, then that means it's that there's a no-go zone, for me, that I'm just going to have to ride them out. And that means throwing out, passing out, all of this kind of stuff. I just have really bad periods and period pain. It's really, really tough, because I do talk to people about it and they're like, "Oh yeah, I get cramps too." And I'm like, "But you get debilitating cramps that you can't do anything. And they usually strike in the middle of the night and I'm up all night and it's just horrible." So I went through that. And what is a doctor's solution to that? Do
Oh,
you know
dear.
what the solution is to cramps?
Uh, Other than ibuprofen, usually they tell you something like, "Lie down with a heating pad," like, you could go through your life with the heating pad strapped to you or something.
Right. Yeah, heating pad. They say put your legs up, so you're kind of in a 90-degree angle. That's really
Very
better for you. They
useful
say,
solutions,
yeah,
if you wanna miss 5 days of school once a month, because they really like that.
yep, yeah. Well, the doctor's solution, and it's still a solution to this, because my kiddo has period cramps as well too. And going to the doctor, the solution that they have is put them on birth control. So at 13
Oh,
years
yeah.
old, I got put on birth control.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was horrible in itself too, because then there's acne, there's weight gain, there's, all of these things. And then your hormones are completely out of whack, completely out of whack. And as a 13-year-old, I wasn't responsible of taking my pill every single day. And what ended up happening is I think it was like 3 or 4 days that I forgot to take my pill. And so
Oh,
I
no.
finally took it, but I was going through ovulation at the time. And I ended up having to go to the hospital because what the doctor told me is that I had an egg explosion in my right ovary.
Oh, dear.
And because she said the egg just met the medicine when the medicine finally kicked in, because I took 4 pills in a row, which you're
Oh,
not
dear.
supposed to do,
No.
you know,
I think you're supposed to
and
do 2 and 2 or something. Yeah.
yeah. And
But
so
you were 13.
I'm 13 years old. I'm not responsible yet.
Right,
Apparently,
right.
at that time, I don't even know. I'm like, maybe I'm not still not responsible, but what
But
ended
yeah,
up
13,
happening,
that's a lot. Like, when you're older, I could see, like, an older teenager doing it, but at 13, that doesn't seem the right solution.
no, no. And so what ended up happening is that caused a little scar tissue on my right ovary. So
Oh my
whenever I
goodness.
would ovulate on my right side, and for us, we go
What
right, left,
each other butts,
it just
right?
goes back and forth, right?
Right, right, right.
Um, so every time I ovulate on my right side, it's painful.
Oh my
It's like
goodness.
it's just I can feel it, I can definitely feel it, and
Oh,
it's
wow.
horrible there. So not only during ovulation when it's my right side's turn, and then also my period too. And then I'm just going to say this. I developed, and this is kind of going into the menopause topic. So during my years, probably about 35 years old is when I discovered that I actually have a tumor. It's non-cancerous, but I have a tumor on my left adrenal gland. And if you know about your adrenal glands control your hormones,
Right, right.
especially your cortisol level. And your cortisol level does affect all of the rest of your hormones too, your estrogen and all of that kind of stuff too. And so when the doctor finally discovered that, they, said, "Hey, eat healthy, exercise, all of that kind of stuff to counteract that cortisol because I have such a large amount of cortisol in my body, like at all the time.
And
So like my
that's what
body's
we
always
always hear about. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's what
no,
we always
go.
hear about, like, gives you the belly fat,
Right.
it makes you feel more
Right.
tired, you don't process your food right, and such, so
Yeah.
you really so we hear about that with getting older to begin with, but, like,
Yep.
now you have, like, a double
A
thing to
double whammy.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And and this kind of brings me to, with bad periods, which I'm excited to get rid of my periods. I'm gonna tell you right
Yeah,
now.
you won't miss those. Let me just tell you, I was very fine with that element of menopause.
Right. Exactly. I think that like getting rid of that would be awesome, but I do worry about my hormone levels, because of that mass or tumor or whatever they want to call it on my left adrenal gland. That makes me nervous too, because I don't know what menopause is going to do with that. Is it going to exasperate it? Is it going to minimize it? Like
Right,
I'm hoping that like this change, that I go through my body doesn't cause me more problems.
right.
So I think that's the reason why I'm really apprehensive about menopause and going into like perimenopause right now, is that I just don't know what my body's going to go through, because I've already had a rough go, my whole life. Ever since I started puberty and started my period and everything, I'm just like, geez, like, is it going to be better? And I'm like, I'm doing this number. I gotta tell a funny story though. My mom's gonna absolutely kill me for telling this story, but I don't think she'll watch this. So let's just go.
Hey, friends and family of Samantha, this is not
Oh no.
weird with her mom, please.
My mom went through later in my teens. That's when she went through menopause. And I think I was 18 years old, and we were in Walmart, and my mom was going through the hot flash stage. And
Uh-huh.
we went into the aisle where there was a bunch of fans, and she literally lifted up her shirt in the middle of Walmart and was just dancing around with all the fans and everything, trying to cool off. And me as a, teenager, basically still,
Was
I was
dying.
like, oh my gosh, I don't know this lady. Like whatsoever. I just remember walking away. And I feel bad now because I don't have hot flashes yet, but I kind of can see, the problem with that. And I'm sure my mom was really embarrassed by me of having like period cramps out in the middle of, like when
Right.
we were out on town and out on the town and everything, because I was sitting there going like, oh, like that sort of thing. And so it's embarrassing, like when you do go through that change and that you do have those kind of like symptoms out in public. And so I get nervous about that as well too. Like,
Hormones, that wasn't part of the deal, Blackheart. That wasn't part of the deal.
my sister is a year older than me, and she is definitely going through perimenopause. She has to take medicine to do hormone replacement therapy, right now. And, she's really trying to minimize that. And for me, I'm thinking, yep, I feel like I'm starting to go through that. So that's kind of where I am in my journey right now, is worried, very apprehensive. And I'm just wondering too if anybody else is kind of in the situation where they're really apprehensive, and maybe they're kind of feeling like they're slipping into it, and just thinking like what's going to happen. So I have to know, if there are anybody out there, that has dealt with this too.
I'm so glad you shared that. And one of the things, this will play on repeat, on
Yeah.
YouTube, and we're going to share it as a podcast as well. And I do think that there are so many people that are apprehensive. And that's why I wanted to start the show, as I said at the beginning, because I just think every woman's experience is different.
Hmm.
And I think what little discourse there has been has come from so many "I have the answer" people.
Mm.
And if that's not your answer, it's belittling.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'm having a little allergy moment. And I just think we need to get away from that,
Yeah.
because whether it's childbirth, whether it's breastfeeding, whether it's now dealing with hormone experience during
Mm,
peri and menopause. Uh, it's just, you have to choose your path.
mm,
So, for a lot of women, like your sister, hormone replacement therapy is so helpful. Absolutely. And so much of what we were taught has been proven wrong. Women have been scared off of it.
mm,
And there was a lot of misinformation and also well intentioned, but now we know better information. But then also, like, you've had some real hormone related experiences that
yeah.
whatever it may or may not be right for your body. Like,
Mm,
your body obviously, didn't respond well at that time, but also you were 13. Like, you need to work specifically with your doctor and with
mhm,
your situation with your adrenal glands, all of that. So there's going to be people out there that could tell you, no way, don't put any artificial things into your body. All you need is diet and exercise, and your life will be perfect.
right.
No excuses. Do what I say, and your life will be perfect. And then
Yeah.
there will be people that will be like, that's crazy. Just take this pill and, whatever. Like, and the truth is somewhere in the between is where 85% of us live, right?
Yeah.
And that's where discourse for just about every topic in the world would benefit from. Like, we could just get rid of the 15, that are hanging out on the sides, and I
Yeah.
think we do better in general. But it's specifically about like women supporting other women's decisions
Yeah.
and having real legitimate conversations about like what your fears are
Mhm.
and like you have legit reasons based upon your experiences and your individualized problems
Yeah.
about what's coming,
Yeah.
right?
Definitely.
And some are more individual to you, but not all of them.
Mhm.
Like, yes, okay, did I ever know of an egg explosion before you? No, I'm not gonna lie, Samantha,
Yeah.
that's a unique problem. However, does just about everyone I know at your age or when I was your age have questions, even if you're 42 and therefore the answer to everything, because you still have
Of course.
you're the answer to everything for a little bit longer,
Yeah.
not scared about what's happening and what you're going to feel.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Mhm.
like, I had our friend Veronica on a couple of weeks ago. We were talking hot flashes. I didn't even know I was having them because I wasn't having the kind your mom was having. I
Okay.
kept thinking that, when you feel like it's time for the AC to click on, you're
Yeah.
just like a little uncomfortable and warm
Yeah.
and kind of like this,
Yeah.
but you're like, surely the AC is going to click on in a minute, right? Like, I'm not going to say anything because it's probably 73 and it's clicked at 72 and surely it's going to click on. That
Yeah.
was my experience of a hot
I've
flash. I
seen.
never had the, oh my God, when it just, and so when my doctor kept saying, are you having hot flashes? I kept saying no,
Yeah. Yeah.
because nobody ever told me what a hot flash was.
Yep.
So that's my point, is that we don't really know what any of this is,
Yeah.
because
Right.
all that I ever knew of hot flashes were like tear open the fridge door or tear
Yeah.
off our shirts. We can't control ourselves. We're so hot, which is legit. Obviously, you told this funny story, and Veronica
Yeah.
told similar stories. And but I had seen the cartoons of the women with the that turned into wolves, like female
Right.
wolves, and they all of a sudden had these like swinging bosoms, and they were like, "Rah!"
Yeah.
Like became inhuman
Exactly.
because their hormones were out of control.
Right.
But nobody told me it might just be that for 10 or 15 minutes, you feel slightly feverish or you feel like
Mm.
the room got warm. And I
Yeah.
and I'd always been a very cold natured person. And I was
Mhm.
And then I would switch back to being my cold-natured person, and I started thinking, "Well, maybe I'm sick."
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Nobody told me that. So that's one of the things I wanna do here is
Yeah.
your symptoms might not sound like what you think they are. So if
Yeah.
your body just feels weird,
Mhm.
call your doctor. It might be perimenopause. It
Yeah.
might not be the joke, or it might not sound like what your sister or your girlfriend may have mentioned. Or
Mhm.
maybe you haven't heard anything at all because
Mhm.
we don't talk about it.
Exactly. I gotta say, I normally run cold myself too because I'm slightly anemic, and so that's something. But lately, I have noticed that some people are like, "It's cold," and I'm like, "It is? Because it feels nice to me right now."
Right.
I'm like,
That's kind of how it
"Oh,
happened to
no."
me. So if
Yep,
you've always been the person who had to have the sweater all the time,
yep,
and you're like, "I haven't really needed my sweater,"
yep.
that might be your version of a hot flash.
Yeah, it could be, it could be. Yeah.
So
I
it's just something to take note of.
Mhm.
I've started recommending to people. I didn't do this. I wish I had. If
Yeah.
you're at that age and things are just slightly different,
Mhm.
if you keep any kind of planner at all, just make a note of it. Don't make a big
Mhm.
deal. Don't try
Yeah,
to keep
yes.
another journal. We're too
Yep.
busy. Just go, oh, noticed it was warm and
Mhm.
move on. Don't make a big deal about it. Then when it's time for your appointment, take it with you and kind of flip back when you're sitting there waiting because you know you'll
Yep.
be waiting
Yeah,
and go,
definitely.
oh, 10 days last month, I noticed I was warm. That is different.
Mhm. Yeah. Can I talk frankly about something else that I'm a little apprehensive about?
Please, please,
This is
that's what
gonna be
this
where it
is.
gets
Frank talk.
very personal.
Poor Frank. Frank
Oh my
has talked
gosh,
to
I
you a
can't
lot.
believe I'm gonna say this. I'm worried about libido. I'm worried about my sex drive as well too, because I do hear that a lot from people that have gone through the change is that it lowers, quite a bit, and or they just don't feel like it, at all. And so I think that's another thing that worries me too. That part as well. So just wondering if you've ever had a talk like that before with people, if
No, it's
you're like
fair,
embarrassed to talk about it, but
and no, people really don't wanna talk about that. They
no,
really don't. Uh,
it's very
and
personal.
it is it is an issue.
Mm,
Uh, I think it gets better after perimenopause
okay.
because you start to settle.
Yeah.
There are HRT does help with that
Mm,
because you don't have as much swings
sure.
and you get estrogen replaced
Mm,
to offset. I think that's right. I'm Joe. Okay,
it's
Joe.
alright.
You have to be careful. If I say progesterone versus estrogen, I
Right.
believe it offs. I think it's progesterone goes up and estrogen goes down is what happens to us. So we feel
Yeah.
less libido. If
Yeah.
I'm getting that wrong, you could tell me in the comments nicely. I am not a doctor. I am not giving medical advice.
Yeah, I was gonna say this doesn't have to be a factual thing, just experience, right? But I think it's testosterone goes up and estrogen goes down. Progesterone is the, drug that you take to, like,
Right.
normalize
No,
your
but
hormones.
we actually testosterone helps you stay horny too. And I think
Okay.
we lose that too.
Alright, well, maybe it's not testosterone. I'm gonna have to look this up
Anyways,
because
we'll look it up ourselves, but whatever it is, hormones do weird things.
yes. Yeah. And I
We're
I
not
gotta
sure.
say, with
We're not sure.
the
And I
oh,
don't edit this. This one is just straight on, or else,
yeah.
like, if we were recording this, I would just cut this out and, like, fix it, but this is all live, so
No, I gotta say, it's I think it's totally fine to have conversations like this too, because I think other people worry about it as well. I do talk to friends that are going through menopause too, and they say that they worry about that, especially with their significant other,
yes.
or
And
if they're dating, too. That it just kind of puts a damper, on things for themselves, and
you
they just don't feel like themselves.
yes. Okay, so it's easier with a significant other, I think,
Yeah.
if you have a good relationship because
Yeah.
you can talk about it.
Right.
I think if you already have problems, it probably exacerbates it. I can't say for sure, but
Sure.
I would just guess that if you're not talking and then you're feeling these things,
Mhm.
all right. I can't say for dating, but I would suspect it probably makes it harder.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine, that it would
Um,
make it harder,
I
but
can only speak from my relationship, and I
Mhm.
will only speak to, like, in general terms because I'm speaking for 2 people.
Yeah.
I was fortunate I didn't feel a huge drop.
Oh, okay. That's good.
I will say what I would think it was the fatigue. I got a lot
Mm.
of fatigue, and
Yeah.
when you're fatigued, you
Yeah.
don't feel a lotta, just like in the I would kinda compare it to, like, 6 months after baby.
Okay. Yeah.
That would
Yeah.
be where
I
I
can
would
see that. Yeah.
equate it to. Uh,
Yeah.
like, when you are, like, just tired, and
Yeah.
is it like that you don't like
Mhm.
the idea, but you're like, "That's a lot of work?"
Yep.
So you're like, "Yeah, let's do it. How does 7 p.m. sound?"
Yeah. Yeah, gotta get your energy up for that, I
Yeah,
suppose.
I would say it's more than like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
not like, "No, I don't like the idea," or, "Eh." Like, I
Yeah.
have met people, but I wouldn't even say that it was necessarily timed with menopause or age. They're like, "I could take it or leave it." They were already
Mhm.
there. Never felt that. Never felt that.
Yeah. Yeah. Alright. Well, I mean, that's good to know because I know everybody's experience is different, with that too. And it just the concerns and everything. I do want to say, I mean, because I did mention I have a kiddo. I have one kiddo, and I gotta say that I know I heard horror stories about people going into pregnancy and kind of like what it did to their hormones and the morning sickness and all of this kind of stuff. And I gotta say, this is unusual. I had a pretty easy pregnancy.
Well,
Like,
God bless you. I had 2 super tough.
oh, and I hear that too, and which is surprising because considering the problems that I've had, with my productive system and everything like that, I would think that like, oh my gosh, I would have had a horrible pregnancy, but I actually had a pretty. The only thing is that what happened in the last couple of months is that I got acid reflux, or
Oh,
heartburn,
yeah.
and that was it. But like that was expected. And I did have a couple of like hormone kind of like weird stuff, but everybody's got that, when they're pregnant too. So, you know,
But
I
that's
gotta,
the thing, and you know what?
right.
And so that again is a great reminder that
Yeah,
you could hear the worst and not have the worst.
right.
And I also say with all of it, I just think going in with I don't mean to sound Pollyanna-ish because anybody who knows me, I'm super positive, but I'm not a Pollyanna.
Yeah,
Attitude does matter.
sure.
And I think the way my generation and yours to follow and such,
Mhm.
we don't look at it as we're over. Like, we're not becoming crones, right?
Yeah,
Like, we
right.
still expect to have be sexy
Mhm.
and beautiful and have value after
Yep,
menopause.
yep.
Yeah. And I do think that we are fighting so much back against those old views that
Mhm.
I do think that helps the idea that you're losing your libido.
Yeah,
I mean, there are chemical changes that are happening in you. That is
sure,
true. I mean,
sure.
we weren't expected to be alive. Let's make it clear.
Yeah.
Average lifespan of a woman 500 to 1,000 years ago is way back in our rear view mirror.
Yeah,
Okay. Like even you are a decade past it. So the fact that we're alive and we're like, we are alive
yeah.
is pretty awesome, and our
Yeah.
hormones are like, "Oh, we're supposed to still be kicking it up? Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay." So,
Very true.
and then but if they're not doing what you want them to do,
Mhm.
then all right, you already know how much good eating and exercise could do for you.
Yes.
And those of you, my viewers who might be for the Pebble, would know we had a great talk about like how you have
Yep.
changed your life and gotten really fit, and you share that with others.
Yep.
So that's always going to be your first step is
Mm.
okay, what can I do
Yes.
uh, to naturally? And there's a lot
Mhm.
of great
Yep.
foods and nutrients that will help. But
Mhm.
then if
Exactly.
that doesn't work, then you go to the doctor and you
Yep.
start slowly with that. You know,
Mhm.
because there are things that you could do. There are creams, there are other things that don't have to necessarily be a pill,
Mhm.
you know?
Yes.
And
Exactly.
and then there are people you could talk to. But this is one of the reasons why I share this on LinkedIn too, is because I don't think that this is a sexual thing, it's a health
Yeah.
thing. And
Yeah.
mental health is
Definitely.
part of it too.
Yeah, definitely.
And you know, if the changes, and I hate when they call it the change,
The
the
change. Yes.
changes are affecting your mental health too, and your libido
Mhm.
is part of that.
Yeah. Right.
Um, if they're affecting you in a way that you are uncomfortable with,
Mhm.
then talk to someone. And if you have a partner and you want to also have a separate session included them, then do that.
Mhm.
But that is part of who you are.
Yeah, definitely.
And
Definitely.
I just, especially right now, I think it is so important that we see a person's full personhood
Mhm.
celebrated and the health of that
Yep.
celebrated. And we realize that what a person's body does
Mhm.
is just normal. Like
Yeah.
our
Yeah,
bodies
definitely.
are supposed to go through these things.
Yeah, exactly. I gotta say, and a lot of times that's what I coach on, a lot of times. So for those that don't know me, I'm a health coach and I work with individuals, a lot of times on weight loss, but I also work with them on just mindfulness, on becoming more healthier, seeing what makes them happy and helping them get to that space. And you're absolutely right. I talk a lot about fitness. I talk a lot about nutrition, which is a lot of people think that like that's the core of what I need to focus on in order to be healthier. But I also work with people on their physical virtual environments too, because sometimes those are very unhealthy for us. How much time we spend scrolling on social media. Let's just say you have a closet that you just stuff things into that's still in the back of your mind. And I also work with people on their mindset too, and just really just working on what would help them to be able to achieve that what they want to achieve and live the life that they want to live. So kind of like breaking down all of those barriers, for them. And it's just, I call it just the four tenets of health and wellness, basically is, just looking at all of those things too. And
Yeah.
financial wellness goes in there too. But I know that's not what we're talking about today, but that's certainly, something that does affect my mindset going into perimenopause, menopause, and all of that kind of stuff.
Well, maybe later on you could come back and we could talk about how this does affect women in the workplace,
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
because there is a lot of ageism and women really worry about that and
Yes.
how they perceive themselves at a certain point in the
Mhm.
workplace. So maybe we could have that talk on the
Yeah,
second.
I'd love to. Love
But I
to.
think this was a really great talk, and I
Me
do
too.
really appreciate you being so vulnerable and
Yeah.
sharing very personal stories. No, I know, it isn't easy. It's
No.
not easy to come out here and tell, very personal physical and emotional stories, and also to talk about libido, because
Mhm.
I I think that we would all do better to destigmatize the thought of our sexuality.
Mhm.
It's not dirty, it's how we continue to exist,
Yes.
on one side, and other, it is how everyone loves. However they love, it's how they
Right.
love.
Mm-hmm.
So on one side, it is a complete and utter natural necessity, but
Mm-hmm.
it's how all of us love.
Yes.
And I just think that we just could talk about it so kindly and easily,
Right.
and uh, it's not dirty talk.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that, and also just opening it up about, this kind of stuff too would help other people, just because if you're apprehensive about it and, just going to, I think that it's a little bit more accepting, to talk about this stuff, as we get, I don't know, a little bit more mature, I suppose, and opening up about like, I go to a therapist, on a regular
Right.
basis, and it's not a dirty secret anymore, and it's those, kind of things as we open up, then we can also understand each other a little bit more. And, that's the point, of having these kind of talks.
It's exactly why I want to do this. And, at first, when I told people I wanted to do this and I was known for the pebble, they kind of went, and I said, no, I think it's the perfect companion to the pebble because
Yes.
it's promoting understanding,
Hmm.
and hopefully it will help someone,
Yes.
right? And isn't
Yeah.
that what I'm doing with the pebble?
Yeah.
Hopefully. I think I'm doing that with the pebble. I hope so. All
Yeah.
right. Well,
No,
you've been
you
a
are.
doll for giving me a little time of your day. And for those of you who are watching it on the replay, thank you for spending a little time with us today. And if you have questions for next time, please put them in the comments. And please give us a like and a share and a follow. And Samantha, tell them your channel too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I always say go to SamanthaElizabeth.com. That's that's my website. And so, but I'm in the process of updating my website to be transparent. Who's not always in the process of updating their website, right? But SamanthaElizabeth.com is where people can, go and reach me. I got all my socials attached to that. If you just go to my contact page, you'll be able to see all the ways to get a hold of me. And I love working with people that are feeling kind of stuck in life and really want to improve their lives. So that's where you can reach me, and that's how I kind of work with people.
Excellent. All right. So go to SamanthaElizabeth.com and give us a like here. Follow me at Star Tracy for the second talk, the pebble, and just all things shiny and bright. Bye now.
Bye.